Hello everyone, welcome to Astra, the daily current affairs. Today it is 2nd of December 2023. Let's have a quick look at what are the current affairs that we have as far as today's current affairs is considered. In the front page, COP28 Summit is there and India has offered to host 2028 Summit. So this is 2023. After 5 years, India wanted to host COP28. In this context, this is very important. So Prime Minister Modi has advocated that if the countries are ready to accept, India is going to host it. Now, how we can host a COP summit? In order to host it, it must be approved by the signatories of UNFCCC. India has previously hosted it in 2002. So remember, India has hosted it in 2002. Now we wanted to host in 2028. This is the thing. So how to host it? These three things are important. Now, Prime Minister Modi, in his speech at COP28, he has said that a small part of humanity has ruthlessly exploited the nature. As a result, the entire humanity is suffering today. Hence, the responsibility has to be taken by the so-called these people who have pushed the world into darkness, not only for themselves but for others. So, this is the comment that was made by Mr. Modi, and he has called for green credit initiative. This is important, guys. What is green credit initiative? The green credit initiative was non-commercial effort to create a carbon sink. So it is a carbon sink that they wanted to develop, a non-commercial entity or non-commercial effort. Very important news under Article 201 of Indian Constitution, the governor doesn't have, or the Supreme Court said that the governor doesn't have the power to consider or reserve a bill for the president's consideration. If under Article 200, if the bill was sent back to the assembly and assembly has reiterated its position. So now it has equated the position of governor on par with the president as far as assent to the governor is considered. So a reconsidered bill cannot be reserved for president. This is what Supreme Court said. In this context, this is very extremely important. I have already discussed about these things. What is Article 200 of Indian Constitution? What is 201 of Indian Constitution? Article 111 of Indian Constitution. These things, please have a look at it, and then that will be more than enough. So policing is not tough, says city police chief. So if you are interested, you can have something there. So KCR convenes cabinet meeting after poll results. Poll results in all the 5 states are going to be held tomorrow. That is 3rd of December. Now on 4th December there is cabinet meeting. Now as per the provisions, a caretaker government, the government which is losing will act as a caretaker government until the new government assumes the charge. This is the thing. So chief minister and his cabinet will continue as caretaker governments even if they lose. So incumbent chief minister and council of ministers has to tender their resignation whether the party they represent wins or loses the election. So what happens after the elections results are announced? Everyone has to resign. Even after resigning, they continue until as a caretaker government. This is important in this entire theme. Next. Arrest MPDO Village Secretariat, says High Court. Have a look at this, guys. What are the powers of High Court? So if High Court gives you some show cause notice, or if a court gives you show cause notice, you have to attend to the court. If you are not attending, then they can give a non-bailable arrest warrant against any officer. This is the powers that the courts in India have. So just remember that. So one good editorial has come today, that is improving the capacity of the Indian state. This is regarding to the so-called role of civil servants in democracy. Role of civil servants in democracy. They have discussed about what are the challenges in the existing democracy or challenges in the civil services and how to overcome this. Extremely important for GS paper 2 as well as GS paper 4. So have a look at these things. That is more than enough in today's newspaper as far as editorial is considered. So I'll be preparing a draft of it and I'll be sharing it. So what he is speaking, what are the problems that we are facing? We are facing a paradox of too big state but too small. What does this mean? India is too small. In Z20 group, we have smallest number of civil servants. The central government employees are very, very less. We have less tax to GDP. We have less government expenditure to GDP. So India's story is scarcity rather than surplus. This is what he has introduced, saying that we are a big state, but we have small numbers in everything, be it administrative side, be it expensive side. As far as the government expenditure considered to the so-called tax to GDP, revenues, as well as the so-called expenditure to GDP, it is very slow. In this context, they are speaking about how inclusive growth can be bought by civil servants or reforms in the civil services. So what they said, for example, they wanted to create a separate wing, separating policy making and implementation should be done. what it happens if you are separating the policy making and implementation, obviously it is going to expedite the execution. That is what the author says. For example, he has given National Highways Authority of India. The highways are designed by the ministry, whereas the project is taken by NHAI. The National Highways projects are designed. So projects are designed by ministry, whereas it is executed by NHAI. As a result, national highways are going at a very high pace. So what he says is we should make the frontline persons to be involved in the work or implementation stage. If you are involving them in the implementation stage, it is going to develop a culture of trust. Otherwise, it is going to develop a culture of mistrust. So what is the problem? Problem in India is poor delegation of functions to the executive and to the legislature, and deficit state capability. So state capacity itself is low or poor delegation. As a result, delegate financial powers and administrative powers to the frontline functionaries. That is, the executive has to be given clear functions, clear funds. Then definitely it is going to synchronize the developmental activities. Next one is the institutional. It is also speaking. Civil servants are losing something called high-end experience. As a result, when it comes to the so-called lateral entry, at the mid-entry level and at the senior level, we have to go for lateral entry of services. This is what they are saying. So what do you mean by lateral services? Making qualified officers of non-IAS services such as revenue, economic and statistical service to head these positions. As a result, with their experience, they will get. What about the general UPSC aspirants? Through Mission Karma Yogi, they have to develop specific training, subject to specific training. So one problem that these people are facing is, or civil servants is facing is, subject specificity is not there. Hence, what he is advocating, subject specificity should be built through Karma Yogi mission, and mid and senior level officers has to be filled with the subjective experts. This is what he has said. And then he is telling that we have to include or increase the strength of the professionals. For example, in SEBI and RBI, we have to increase substantially. This is what they said. Next one is, we should also ensure that Central Vigilance Commissioner, COG, they have to have wider scope in their work. So what he is telling is, apart from this, we should also look at public versus private sector. So just like the private sector, where incentives are given based on your performance, public sector should also give incentives or promotions based on the so-called performances. So this is what they said. So the solution lies in moderate pay rise by the future pay commissions and a reduction in the upper age limit of the government jobs. Moreover, high economic growth that throws up many lucrative jobs in private sector will make the government jobs less appealing for those who are money minded. So all these things will put together the measures to overcome the socially driven individuals joining the government. So it makes the people who are socially driven to join the government. So in short, the author is speaking about what are the problems in the existing civil services and how to overcome them. Right? This is the solution. Extremely important, guys. Please have a look at it. The second article is regarding to the so-called loss and damage fund. We have already discussed this. Loss and damage fund was first initiated somewhere around the so-called COP. In the year 1995 itself, it was introduced, but it got traction in COP27 at Egypt. In the COP28, it was materialized. In this context, the article is speaking about transitional committees. So between COP27 and 28, in this 1 year, what it happened, transitional committees has recommended on how to organize this funds and who should be the person who will be heading it. We all know that it will be under the World Bank for first period 4 years. After this, it will be regulated by independent secretariat. So this is the thing, but what is the problem that you have? The problem is bureaucratic hurdles, and World Bank will have to conditionalities. This will make the funds not to be released that much easily. This is what they are saying. Patchy expansion, this is regarding to the so-called GDP growth, not important, you can leave. The process of Myanmar's actual unification. So this is something, actual unification in Myanmar has begun because all the political parties belonging to different groups are coming together and they are fighting against the so-called military junta along with the civilians. This is a new rise because the political parties belonging to different parties coming together and airing their voice for democracy is something which has to be applauded in Myanmar. In this context, the political parties that they were formed is Federal Development, something called FDC, Federal Democratic Charter. So this charter was prepared by almost all the parties which are in ruling and which are in opposition in Myanmar. As a result, this is going to be quite beneficial for democracy establishment in Myanmar. This is what they said. Maharashtra's winter discontent on caste. So what is this? Marathas. the dominant Marathas or higher caste Marathas are asking that they want reservations in educational institution and employment opportunities. So they wanted them to be considered as OBCs, not general category. As a result, they wanted to ensure that they want reservations. This is what they said. So they wanted to include them as Kunbi community. Remember this community, Kunbi, Kunbi. Kunbi is a community which is OBC in Maharashtra. They wanted to include Marathas into this. So this was agitation. Already we have discussed enough on this. So Interpol meeting has taken place. This can be used in internal security, guys. So Interpol meeting. Who is the head of Interpol in India? CBI. This is important. So CBI will be there. What is Interpol? International Police. There will be a meeting of all the police officers of different parts of the world. They will be coming and sitting and they will be discussing on how to coordinate in order to ensure that criminals are not getting safe havens at the global level. This is what the discussion that they had. Followed by this, you have something called disinformation can impair democratic discourse, says CJF India. Mr. Dhanunjay Chandrachud has said this. So disinformation can impair democratic discourse. So recently there has been increasing narratives or increasing fake stories or increasing fake news. As a result, this is disturbing the so-called the narrative of truth. Manufacturing PMI rebounds in November. This is a regular news. You can leave it. What is PMI? We have already discussed enough on this. So these are the current affairs that we have, guys. If you are interested, please read Loss and Damage Fund of the editorial. The second editorial that you have to read for must is that editorial which speaks about the so-called how civil servants is facing some problems or what are the challenges in it. So this is something which you have to read definitely for the day. So these are the things that we have in today's Saturday. We'll meet on Monday coming out with subsequent articles. Have a great day, guys.